The topic of continuous learning, we started off with books, but it doesn't actually mean just books. It's learning
Yeah.
from people around you. It's taking
Yeah.
lessons from mentors. It's taking lessons from people who have made it and said, I made my way this way. You don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to follow it, but the point is like what made it work for them.
If you're the entrepreneur, if you're the business owner, you can't actually just dive in and do everything
Yeah.
for that department. I mean, that's why you're hiring, people that are better than you.
Yes.
But the thing is here is that yes, you're hiring other people because now you do have the space and the time to concentrate and learn about other things
Yes.
because again, learning is never ending. Hey everyone,
Welcome to Outsourcing and More with
Penny and
Francis. We're glad you're listening because we've got a lot to talk about: business, tech, investments, business mobile apps, web platforms, and all the latest trends in the outsourcing industry and more.
we'll give you tips, insights, and strategies on how to navigate the world of entrepreneurship and the gig economy.
So if you own a business, whether it's big or small,
A brand new startup,
or you're part of the huge outsourcing community as a tech professional, a VA, or an employer,
better start subscribing because this is the podcast for you.
so let's start achieving more. Hello and welcome to another episode of Outsourcing and More. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Francis.
Thank you. My name is Penny.
And today,
Eh, today, no, this topic very, very near to my heart. Like, I think we should have said in the last few episodes,
well,
right?
we,
But
we do
this
tend
one,
to we
like,
don't we do tend to talk about topics that are near and dear to our heart. But it's one of
yeah,
those things that when we saw the topic, it was more like, Penny. Oh, but yeah, look at my nails. I'm just gonna get this out of
I
the way because
saw.
you're gonna notice. You're
I
gonna
saw. Oh, I gave up because we've been playing bowling. So
yeah.
the last time I bowled, I broke this nail. it was
Oh.
it was a gel manicure, and I broke it. it was I was that competitive during bowling.
Yes, but such is life. So I love that you're enjoying with your kids again. I mean, like
Mhm.
activities with your kids is super nice. And then for me, this was also actually activities with a niece
Yeah, with kids, right? They
with
painted your
kids.
nails.
Yeah, I never really would have, like, by choice. I don't really do this, but every time I come from Leeds, I always come away with painted nails. So it's just
I mean, it's a good thing they have black.
no. See, that's the thing.
You bought it?
Remember the last time? This is like last year.
Mm.
Uh, I came back. I had like glitter nails because that's what she had. Like how kids get these like starter
Yeah.
kits for.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
I don't know if they're
For
even real. You know, Q-tics,
I don't
nail
yeah,
polish.
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt
Yeah,
it.
but
I
it comes
doubt
in
it
these
it's
little
real.
bottles, and then you do
Yeah.
the thing, and then it's like, anak, give me that. It's not pantay. But this time, because his dad is one of those guys who, like, he plays the bass guitar, and like Ali, who paints it, like my
Oh.
brother who paints
Oh
his
yeah,
nails, so
yeah.
he had it, and I was like, you go get your tatay's nail polish, use that on me, and then yeah, it's like actually a pretty good job.
Sorry.
Yes, but anyway, hi. It appears we're just comfy leading into this topic, but I'm just gonna start it off. Today we're talking about uh what's the best way to describe it? Like continuous learning,
Yeah.
right?
Continuous learning for
Continuous learning,
entrepreneurs.
because maybe let's. I don't even know where to start about it because I feel like I've always been a learner. I've always been, a,
Yeah,
st- a
I
student
think
of
so too.
a student of life. Oh my
A
goodness.
student and a teacher. Because you always teach people.
I can't help it. But
Yeah.
in a way, it's almost because, I mean, how would you describe yourself as a learner? Even because our actual topic is continuous learning for entrepreneurs. But
Mhm.
I feel like even before we became entrepreneurs, I feel like I've always been a continuous learner.
Yeah, yeah, same. And I actually would say the biggest contributor of who I am now is because I started reading books again. Because when you're young, you read books because you're required
Yeah.
to read textbooks, right? You're required, and then after that, it's not like you would, well, based on my upbringing, it's more of fiction
Yeah.
rather than nonfiction, rather than self help. And it's funny because I started reading
Sweet
nonfiction
Valley
self help
High.
books. No, no, no. I started reading nonfiction self help books because I joined a networking company, and a multi level marketing company.
Ooh, we fell for
Yeah,
one of
and I
those, didn't we?
yeah,
I
I
feel like
fell for
everybody would have
for a
gone
couple.
through a
Yeah.
phase.
I mean, it's still a viable like business model, right? But the reason why I started is because they gave me this book. The first book that kind of started it all for me was
Guy
The Secret by Rhonda
Kiyosaki.
Byrnes. No, 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 not that one. The Secret by Rhonda. I
Rhonda
don't know how to
Shimes.
pronounce. But Barnes, I think. And
Is it
then
the
it kind of
secret, like the one
snowballed.
who did The
It,
Alchemist?
oh, no, 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 no. That's Paulo Coelho.
Rhonda
Coelho.
Byrne?
Run,
Byrne?
right? I don't know how to, but hi. Hi, but yeah, that kind of started everything for me.
Mm.
And then I went to uh, the Success Principles by Jack Canfield, and then they just snowballed from there. And
Did you do
I
Rich
would
Dad
say
Poor
like a
Dad?
big no, you know what? I've never finished it. I've always started it, but never finished it.
Tuesdays with
Uh,
Murray?
yeah, that one, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've
It's
read
I love that
The
we've never
Alchemist.
really talked about the books that we've read, but I'm
No,
surprised that we
yeah.
share. You at this point, I am so sure that you've probably read, in terms of self help books, like a ratio of 4:1 for me. And I was gonna say earlier, if I can share a secret, I stopped reading. I was a massive reader back when I was a kid. Like I couldn't get enough books, honestly, and they were both. I was reading the. I don't know, what do you
Why
call
are
those
you
things?
laughing?
Like when you're kids, you have those kids encyclopedias, and I'm like,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
just
we did
revealing
that
my
too.
age, talking about
No,
encyclopedias.
we had the encyclopedias too.
Yeah,
My Lola had like the Britannica, like
no,
the
yes, but
big.
The Britannica is the it's the Encyclopedia Britannica is the one that goes like A to B, K to
Yeah, yeah,
L.
yeah.
But there was this one for kids. That's like uh kids encyclopedia for, and I was so fascinated
I think
by
I
yeah.
have that too.
Yeah, it's you probably had those, but it's like it would be like topics like biology and then geography, minerals,
Yeah,
animals. The topics were like that, and then
science. Yeah.
I think that's what got me into yeah trouble. Lol. Because I was I think I knew too much for my age back then, but anyway, there came a time when I moved from books like that. I was reading Reader's Digest as a kid.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
my aunt had a
There's this
subscription
section
for
that
Reader's Digest. All in the day's work.
my Lola had my grandfather had a subscription, and we
Yeah.
used to just get it from his office.
Yeah. And I always loved it when there's a new subscription. My first few things, all in a day's work, laughter is the best medicine.
There you go. I was trying to figure out what was that section that I loved reading and
Yeah, because they
readers
were
like
like
all in a
user
day's work.
submitted
Yeah.
stories, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
And then I think that was where my first jokes came from, and I think where my where the American humor comes from. And it always starts with like, it wasn't like two Jews walking a bar, but it was like Saint Peter just came. Oh my gosh, I think it's.
So
I told you we
yeah,
didn't have to meet too much about this topic too. But anyway, so yeah, I went from Reader's Digest, and then I think I did a bit of Rolling Stones, New York Times, but then again,
I know Rolling Stone.
it didn't do too much for me because it didn't do too much for me because the topics were maybe just a little bit too deep for a 14-year
Mm-hmm.
old, and then Archie comics. Oh my gosh,
Archie, yeah.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think it. also contributed to. And again, some people, a lot of people would ask like, oh, how is your English so good? And there's always like are aspects of that, like my spoken English, Sesame Street. But the written English is like just kept reading. But yes, I mean that's learning in the growing sense. But we're still here to talk about like continuous learning, and I sort
Mm.
of did pick up on it again when I started working, because I had to. When you
Mm-hmm.
remember back then when I was training, subject matter expert, and then you were training as a leader. Training was like, oh, you're not just training for product, you're actually leading people, and that's where they did like, 7 habits of highly effective people, because I wasn't effective at all.
I read that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Rich Dad Poor Dad. What was the other things? What were the other things? Monday Morning Leadership, I think, was one of the first.
Oh no.
It was one of the first things that that still sticks to me to this day. Like the lessons just come out like boogeyman. Like,
You know what? I feel like when you read books, it's not that you need to memorize everything or that you need to understand everything.
yeah,
Sometimes, when you read a book, it's really some things will stick,
yes,
and
agree.
those are the ones that
Matter.
you would be able to apply.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Probably
hard
that
when,
matters to you at that point.
yeah,
Mm.
it's what matters. It's you pick up. Sometimes when I read a book, like it's almost like what was the most memorable thing, and unfortunately, sometimes it's the most memorable thing that is sort of like what guides you, and then maybe sometimes you
Mm.
wait. I remember something from that book, and then you come back and do it. And the great thing about it is, a lot of these books are actually available online anyway. You know,
Yes.
so you can always come back and read through them. I actually have some of those books as a handy PDF, because I always want to do like some life lessons that I was very happy I knew before starting our business. You know what was it? People quit people before they quit companies, which was a principle of
Mm-hmm.
Monday Morning Leadership. And then learn to recognize your shooting stars, falling stars, twinkle twinkle little stars. But
I have a question for you.
yes,
Have you ever
build a
how do you
snowman.
choose how do you choose which books or which classes to take?
How do I choose which books to take? Unfortunately, because I right now, some of the some of the books are in search of things that I need help on
Mm.
with. So apparently I need a grammar book now. No, but look at it this way. Um, I have an overabundance of confidence. I would, I have a superpower. I look at something and say, how hard could it be? Unfortunately, but I also have to, realize that maybe I need more. Uh,
Mm.
the first ones that I thought I thoughtfully read was how to overcome adult ADHD, because I was
Mm-hmm.
self-diagnosing. I'm still waiting for a diagnosis, but my point is it's a problem, therefore I need to, right? And then when I
Mm.
started with with worrying about my future, it became Rich Dad Poor Dad. Not just in life, it's more like life lessons. Like it can't just be lessons in investment. It has to be
Yeah.
it has to be like your personality, like how building, strengthening relationships, uh you know life lessons, like you really just wanted to. It's not about the
Yeah.
hype.
Do you agree? I When I think about this, I feel like it's also related on being very self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
Like I always, and I think I said this in at that episode where you interviewed me, right? That I'm very introspective. Um and I always like choose books or classes or seminars where I feel like I am lacking or I feel like I need to learn more about it because I don't know much about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes with a little bit of self-awareness,
Yes.
because if you're not self-aware, how exactly are you going to be able to pinpoint what it is you need
Yes.
at that point? And with entrepreneurship and leadership, self-awareness is also a huge part of it.
I think the biggest thing, I mean, since we're leading up to this conversation anyways, the biggest motivator for me to try to learn and understand more is again when we became,
Because you want to be smarter than everyone
because
else.
I have this innate need to be smarter than everybody else. No, 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 no.
You
It's
pause there.
yeah. I mean, there's several reasons. I mean, one of the life lessons that we keep telling ourselves is that you want to hire people who are better than you, right? But you
Mm,
can't. They can't just be better than you. The point is better than you, but you can't be piss poor on the topic, right?
yeah,
Because you're
same.
not
Because how would
helpful.
you know? Yeah, and how would you know if that person is actually performing if you don't know anything about that
Yes.
area?
In the words of my, uh, I credit her as a mentor, my dearly departed boss director. I shall not mention the name, but I know. I mean, yeah. How do you measure the performance? And
Hmm.
the point is like, that's right. I mean, you can't just give somebody the helm and be the incompetent who just happened to be at a higher position than somebody. Again, the point is you hire somebody who's better than you, not leagues
Hmm.
apart from your knowledge. You can't just be zero knowledge on the topic. Like, maybe not even like the topic of continuous learning, we started off with books, but it doesn't actually mean just books. It's learning
Yeah,
from people around you. It's taking
yeah,
lessons from mentors. It's taking lessons from people who have made it and said, I made my way this way. You don't
yeah,
necessarily have to follow it, but the point is like what made it work for them, right? So it's life lessons along the way. Then it's and I do remember that sometimes that's also a problem because I don't know, you've had I don't know, business boot camps or at least yung round table discussions with other leaders, right?
yeah,
and
yeah. I
and
have.
one of the things that I keep hearing from people who are both entrepreneurs and coaches and mentors is like they say that the learning never stops and you have to be hungry for
Yeah,
that knowledge, which is surprisingly sometimes the opposite of how life really goes. Like sometimes a lot of people pretend that they know everything or they pretend to know everything, and the problem is pretending to know everything puts you in
like stops your growth.
it
Is
stops your
that,
growth
or
because
puts you in a
yeah,
box?
kasi you're so maybe you can still read in secret, learn in secret, but you're now cutting yourself off from people who potentially could be useful to you. But one of the first steps of really understanding that you don't know anything is to say, parang, I don't know much about it, but I'm willing to learn, or that's why I
Learn.
hired you, so you can guide the business, but also for me to learn from your expertise. At least when you leave, hopefully I went from 1 2 3 to 1 plus 1 to 1 times 2. At the very least. If I didn't know multiplication before, although there are some things that you potentially will never really come close to actually understanding. Like, will we really master IT?
No,
That
that and that's why we know parts of it, but not all of it. And
yes,
each department, each side of the business, it's always like there's a lot of depth in it. I'm hoping I'm saying that properly.
death.
Like
Eh?
you can't. I mean, if you're the entrepreneur, if you're the business owner, you can't actually just dive in and do everything
Yeah.
for that department. I mean, that's why you're hiring people that are better than you.
Yes.
But the thing is here is that yes, you're hiring other people because now you do have the space and the time to concentrate and learn about other things,
Yes.
because again, learning is never ending. in
It's a
business.
never ending.
And you mentioned and I like what you said about learning from life lessons from other people.
Mhm.
And I did say that I do have experience with being present in like roundtables, mastermind dinners, mastermind. And I truly appreciate when people ask questions and they get answers, they and we learn from each other, right? But um one thing that I do keep in mind when I go to these mastermind dinners is I keep an open mind, but I will always follow the path that feels the best for me. Because there's going to be a lot of advice, there's going to be a lot of lessons, but I would have to decide which path to take. Kailangan ko panindigan yung decision na yun.
Yeah.
I need to make sure that if I make this decision, it's not because someone made the decision for me. I made it, right? So that's what I try to bring during mastermind dinners. Be open, and and there are I think a lot of moments where I did follow what they advised, right? Because it made sense to me. It made sense to who I
Right.
was.
Do you
Um,
feel? Oh, sorry. You
mastermind.
continue. I'm gonna
Uh,
ask you. Okay.
yeah,
No,
go
no, I was
ahead.
just gonna
Sorry.
ask you something
Yeah.
like, sometimes. So I actually have to remind me about the other one. And when you do attendees, and sometimes a lot of people share, and you do have the opportunity to sort of pick and choose which advice to follow, because when it
Yeah.
comes to like advice, they can be both objective and subjective. They can be coming from
Yeah.
their own POV, or they could have
Yes.
like proof of concept of this is my strategy and this is what we did and this is what worked for our company. But sometimes there are just some people who, like, when they give that advice, it's totally different from what you would from you would, like, it's not something that I would do. Or when you see something went totally opposite of what you were intending, wherein when you think to yourself, or at least I've thought to myself, if anything, at least I learned what not to be. It's just I'm just saying, sometimes there's just that. But again, the important thing is the exposure, because when people say ignorance is
Yeah.
bliss, sometimes I actually agree. Ignorance
Yeah,
is so
it
much
is.
bliss. Uh,
But I do feel I'm still ignorant. Like I do feel like as much as I've read a ton of books, attended a ton of classes, there are still some things that I'm ignorant about.
yes, but that's the important thing.
That's why I'm in bliss.
Understanding ignorance is the first key to learning, because admitting that you
Yeah.
don't know something is important. It's worse because you've seen people who.
To act like they know everything. Yeah.
So, 'di ba, the that quadrant, people who know. Wait, was that who who are
Which one?
who,
There are a
who
ton of quadrants.
yeah, there's a quadrant where you don't know, and you don't know that you don't know. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
okay.
And there's the other one that's like the best one, like you know that you don't know, and you're aware of it. And then
Yes.
the worst bit, the other extreme side, is that you don't know, and you don't know that you don't know it, which is like really, really bad. So understanding that there are things in life that you don't know is is actually great, because it opens you up to saying, I need to find or understand and open myself to the experiences that need to happen. Like, it's pretty much the same thing when I think. So remember when I moved here, um
Mm.
you got exposed to a lot of Filipinos who were here, and I was like, I'm gonna learn from these people because they've been here like 5, 10, 15 years, their whole
Yeah.
life. But you'll be surprised at some of the life lessons that I gathered from there, particularly between people who, and this is not a read on anybody else. Like I said, they each found their own path, and they each found their own way. But I found that there are groups of people, Filipinos, who embraced
Hmm.
being in a different country, right? And embraced the culture of being here, made new friends, understood the culture, and thrived. Surprisingly, there are also those who, again, not wrong, became clannish, like sought out their own and stuck to their own. So, of course, in anywhere naman, there'd be groups of Filipinos then, and they would like
Yeah.
really stick together. You notice that the expansion or the understanding of the culture is very poor, or rather, very jaded. Very
Mm,
jaded. Like I hear
yeah.
from people who are like, or who are on this side of the Alice, that you know, yung mga they're very racist. They're very ganyan. They look down on Filipinos, which is surprisingly something that I do not hear from the other side. And you can imagine which side I'm on. I've never actually had anybody be racist towards me. So I'm just thinking like,
Hmm.
that's something to learn, or at least something to keep in mind when dealing with people. Again, just you take the opportunity to learn. But if you chose to just move out of the country, for example, and then just focus on living your life there and not take in the life lessons, did you really grow as a person?
You know what thrills me about like just keeping on reading on
Yeah.
books? While I love like knowing a ton of stuff, I also like find out that I don't know a ton of stuff. Like it just keeps me going because now I have another thing to read on after reading this book, because this is the part that I don't know much about. What else can
It
I know
becomes
about
a
it? So
choose
it's
your next
just
adventure.
yeah, it just keeps
Yes.
going for me, and that really thrills me. And the other thing that also kind of motivates me is how it has expanded my
Mm-hmm.
mind, only because there are things that you're not exposed to,
Yes.
whether it's because of your environment, your upbringing. And by reading books, and mind you, I haven't really read like biography or autobiography books. I've only read like self-help fiction, young adult young adult books, things like that. But the expansion of ideas that you've never thought of before, like you've never thought of before, right? And now that you can actually apply it somewhere else is kind of like, okay, okay, I'm feeling smarter. It's
Yes.
it's also very like a dopamine hit.
Yes, no, I
Like,
completely agree. And let's take that to some of the other things that we, maybe collectively agreed that expanded our horizons. I remember
yeah,
uh I mean, we've always lived in the Philippines our whole lives, but you remember that trip that we took?
in
Was it
Europe,
last
yeah.
year?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
last year, around in a few weeks, it's
Yeah.
gonna be its anniversary.
But see, if you imagine how a tiny little thing, like taking a trip. I mean, it's not tiny. It was like hella expensive. Um, that's not. But remember what we were talking about afterwards, like how you never thought
Yeah.
that taking a trip could change you so much. Yeah, not
Yes.
not not even because it was the kind of trip that we were expecting for the both of us, because it was a lot of like going to the walking tours and expanding our horizons, knowing the Holocaust, knowing the history of that
Yeah.
city, which is like, you know, maybe it's not typical of what people would do when they visit a country. They would, like we did do some of the other things, but we were also fascinated by the history, right? But what were,
Hmm.
some life lessons from there totally changed me, like, and you told me, like, you can't wait to travel again.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't wait. It was um, hmm, I guess traveling is also one of the best ways to learn,
Yes.
and not just about about yourself, but even about other cultures. And because in our business, really,
Is about other
right? Like
cultures too.
yeah, our clients are from other countries, and being able to be actually
Mm.
there exposed to a different culture and kind of knowing how to interact with them actually really helps. I mean, travel is the best, most expensive way to learn about other cultures, but I do recommend other people to just do it. I One of my greatest regrets is I didn't do it sooner, because I mean, I traveled in other like Asian countries. I was already, what, in my 20s. My
Oh,
sister traveled
aren't you in your
well
20s?
while she was in college. Thanks.
You know that me.
But yeah,
Those me. That those stories that go. Me wondering how people in born in 2004 are already 24. People born in the year 2000 are 24,
under
but
40s.
I'm born in 1982 and I'm still 24. Yeah, but no,
Yeah,
but it's
because we're
true.
for her faces.
One of the odd things that I learned, maybe because is it colonial mentality? I will never know. But I used to be in awe of white people. I used to be in awe
Mm.
of them. I just thought like if you're if they're white, if they're the expats who came to train us back then. Oh my gosh,
Hmm.
they're like and oh my gosh, they're earning so much, and then they're like buying stuff left and right, and there's oh my gosh, they must be so amazing. Then you find out they're just like eventually when you start traveling, you just find out they're sort of like
They're just
just the same
people.
people, and some of them do be
Yeah.
dumb, not to
It,
just as dumb as some Filipinos can be dumb. It's just
what's shocking to me when I
yeah,
traveled? I traveled to, I think it was Thailand, and no one spoke
in Thailand.
English. Like, yeah, I think we were in Pattaya.
Ah,
We were trying to buy something from a convenience store, and they didn't speak English, which was shocking to me because before I traveled, I thought
spoke
everyone
English. Yeah,
spoke English, and it was like just a universal language. And then
not
now
as
I'm here, I'm
universal as
trying
you
to
thought.
just like
Yeah.
mime my way about
So
what I
did you
needed to
do the
buy. Um,
one day in Thailand?
no, I did not. It was not, the reels wasn't in
Oh,
yet.
that.
When
Yeah.
I yeah
So
last time traveled to
yeah.
Thailand,
So
but mm,
yes. No,
go
no, go.
ahead. Sorry. Mm. No, and I guess traveling really exposes you to other cultures, expands your mindset, um, and even the possibilities that you think about after.
Yes. It's just so sometimes I can't even put a pin on what it did for me because it just changes everything. And I'm not talking about those little funny stories where people come back to the Philippines and they say, "Oh my gosh, Philippines, it's so mainit," or the traffic here is nothing like the traffic in, or those little things when people because people used to treat that as a joke when people come back and say, oh my gosh, the traffic in the Philippines or the security in the Philippines or the way people behave in the Philippines very different from when you get exposed in other countries. But I've seen that, and I'm not trying to like be that person, but you also can really see the
Mm.
differences, right? And I don't know if you've noticed this, but ever since I started living here, I don't know if you've noticed that some of my decisions or my positions in life have sort of changed too,
Yeah.
right? I don't know. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know if you want to point it out, but in some ways, I was thinking more like, oh, baka they need a mental health day. Baka they need a mental health day, which
Uh,
is
oh yeah, because it's more prevalent in other countries like mental health,
gender
gender
sensitivity.
sensitivity is
Yes.
a lot
Oh,
more.
diversity, equity, inclusion. Because I mean,
Yeah.
Filipinos, admittedly, is very homogenous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, you take the time to understand, like, oh, some people are like this. And while you say everybody's the same, you also recognize that different cultures, different people are just plain, they just happen to be different. They just also happen to be different. They're just inherent differences, which I feel like helps me understand how to deal with people and how to talk to people, and how like he wasn't really being rude. He's just that way, which is surprisingly how a lot of Filipinos are. You know, when you say, uh, sorry, vernacular, like, bakit ka sumisigaw? Hindi, nagpapaliwanag lang. And that sometimes it's just how we are. We're loud, actually. We're pretty boisterous. So, you know, I take that to be something. But the important thing is you realize that when you learn something, it's, oh my gosh, it's like inside out. It becomes like this little bowl of of memories that goes to the back of your head,
Mm-hmm.
that it's important that you recognize that it's a learning experience, you know. So whether it's
Yes.
reading from the books, whether it's experiencing things firsthand, whether it's traveling, it's, you know, going to people. And you know, as much as I hesitate to maybe bring this up, you know that when you say experiences, life experiences, that also involves the network of people that surround you, right? Which I
Yes.
think
Mm-hmm.
not just one book but several books would also mention that the more that you learn about yourself, the more that you learn about life, the more that you're interested to grow as a person, the smaller that network of friends become.
But probably because at that point, um, when you kind of go to the next level at that point, not a ton of people would understand what you're going
Mm,
through. And so the network, uh, I guess the network does decrease quite a little bit. And it's not to say that friendships can't survive if someone is growing.
yes,
That's not to say. It's just that the topics are very different,
yes,
very different, and especially in our kind of space, sometimes you do need to have someone who kind of understands what you're going through,
yes,
and so the network or the group of friends does change.
yes.
I have a question for you. What is your most favorite tip when you're trying to learn something?
My tip for other people or my tip for myself?
Yeah. Well, what works for you? What's the best? What works for you when you're trying to learn
Shut up and
something?
listen.
Which you don't
Which I
do.
don't do. No, that's my point. That's lalaglag ka eh. Yeah,
Sorry.
I find myself on the other side of the conversation most of the time. But when I do,
Mm.
and mind you that I have been exposed to a lot. I've exposed myself to a lot of. And then there's, okay, I will answer that, but I will just include this. Make friends with people who are
Mm.
smarter than you, richer than you, more accomplished than you.
Hmm.
Very true life lessons.
Sometimes hard to find.
Sometimes hard to find, but when you do find them,
So
and
sometimes
that's
hard to find.
that's what I
Yeah.
said. When I do find them, I shut up and listen, because I listen to every little thing, because they drop these little nuggets of wisdom.
Yes.
Yes, like, and I will tell you this. In our Mama Rene Salud, very revered personality in the Philippines, it said, "Anak, always be humble." Coming from somebody who is that successful, the words "always be humble" hits differently
Yeah.
from somebody of your age level to say "be humble," which is true, right? But somehow the lesson hits more different, because you would think, "Oh my
It's
gosh."
like it carries a ton of weight with it.
Yes,
Like a
because that's somebody who has lived that philosophy and succeeded because of it. And then, and not by words, through action, through action. And this was told to me. The story was firsthand,
mm-hmm.
by Jim, my dear Jim, that when he went with Amarena Salud to do a Dubai fashion show. Like it was a government sponsored thing to tour like local textiles and stuff like that. Michael Cinco, who is at this point
Yeah.
world famous, I didn't know that Rena Solid was his mentor, right? Yeah. So
Wow. Mhm.
to see him, to see him walk to the fashion show and then be his assistant. Wherein Marine was like, no, no, you sit there. Like, no, 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 I'm helping, I'm helping. To witness that is to actually see the same life lesson, always be humble in action, right? So now I'm very humble.
Liar. Sorry, we laugh, but yeah, I don't know. Of course, you only see us through our podcast, and I guess you kind of get a glimpse of what our friendship is. But Francis is our golden retriever. Okay, it takes him about 30 minutes before we're actually going home because he stops for every single
Yeah.
person. So I understand why the best way for you to actually learn like that what works for you is your interaction with people,
Yes.
and just and you're very very observant, sometimes too observant.
But
And that's why I understand why this is how you're actually learning, and I do understand that you have to be like, and we're the same. I need to be like, I need to
yeah.
sit down and just not think of anything and just concentrate, because I mean, right now I'm very overstimulated because of the kids and the work and the sounds and everything. But that's the best way for me to learn, is to just sit down, grab a book. If not a book, watch YouTube,
Yeah.
TEDx. Actually, you know what I've been
Sorry,
doing,
did you say
which I'm
FedEx?
kind of TEDx.
FedEx. Sorry.
Why would I do
Watching
FedEx?
FedEx on YouTube.
What?
What?
No, what's happening with me lately, and I guess it's also kind of a result of me going through this, going through again the manifestations and stuff like that, as well as reading about habits. What I've been doing so far, so I'm trying to like increase my step count every day,
Your step
and I
count.
watched that. Yeah, my step
Oh,
count every day.
you
So
listen to your
yeah,
you listen to your
steps.
smartwatch.
No, I actually watch TEDx on YouTube. And then I also have, do you know Masterclass?
Yes. Oh my gosh,
That
yes.
it's like Udemy, but the
Welcome
teachers are
to my
more like,
masterclass.
they're kind of more
Did
globally
you
known, like
subscribe? Do you
Martha
have
Stewart.
subscriptions?
I did.
Can I
I
borrow? So
subscribed because
I I think I subscribed to maybe not the most useful ones, but I did like some of the first ones. Anna Leibovitz, Anna Wintour. I did the
Anna
actress
Winter.
because they
Yeah.
were one of the first few ones. Who was that? Helen Mirren.
Mm-hmm.
But that was more for like personality for me because she taught she Helen Mirren, like she taught acting, but
Yeah.
I wanted to glean something from the lesson, like how to deal with yourself, because they seem like they always have it together, don't they?
Right. Okay. Masterclass. So I also watch that if I don't have a TEDx YouTube video that I wanted to watch. So that's what I've been doing, I think, for the past 3-ish weeks. Mind you, I don't really like walk every single day, but I do try. So I'm just stacking those
Oh,
those
you're
things
doing
together so
step
I
count.
don't get bored.
You're doing an odd.
Yeah,
Take an Audible
I'm
subscription.
audio and
Take
treadmill.
an
Huh?
Audible subscription.
I do. I do. Also, I told you I'm
I
so
forgot.
I'm such a nerd.
Yeah.
I have an Audible subscription. I have a
This
Kindle.
episode is
I have
brought to you
paper
by
books. I
Audible.
have yeah. But I stopped my Audible subscription just because I have a ton of books that I haven't read yet. And then you also have, and then with Apple, right? You have podcasts. Like here, we're doing a podcast right now, and you're
Oh,
learning
you know what I
something.
love about
Hopefully, you're learning something.
you know what I love about London. people are still so into books and newspapers. I've never seen a lot of
You know, I
newspapers. I miss newspapers. And I love that you can
I
just
prefer paper books. Yeah,
no, yeah, but paper
actual.
books. You can like read them. Like people actually go into bookstores and buy them. And I don't think there's even a lot of books in the Philippines anymore because, things are usually like in PDFs and stuff. But here people go to like so there's brand new bookstores, there's bookstores for used books, and I kind of love I kind of love like going through that.
Probably there are
And
still
free
stores of.
libraries. I love it.
Oh, there are actually free libraries. It's just that it's, I guess, less aesthetic
Yeah,
than
here it's
it
very
would
cute. You
be
just have
there.
like a,
Yeah,
like there's a lot of tube stations, and then in some parks where you see the little cabinet where just, and then I would take a book, and sometimes I'd bring it back, or sometimes I'd get a few one because what I've
you do.
started doing is sometimes when you walk by and then you see some of your neighbors putting out their old books, I'd actually collect them, see what I want to read, and then when I'm done with them, I put them in the free
Yep.
libraries. Just really nice. But anyway, so yes, we try to let's put it this way. So we try to learn as much as we can. Are we amazing people because of that?
I think if you want to succeed in business and even in life, I told you earlier, like I attribute like starting reading books again to how my life has turned out. Like how it's really 180 at this point.
Yeah.
Like even skyrocketed at this point because I started reading
Yes.
books again. So if you want to succeed in life, in business, it's a given. And it doesn't have to be a book,
It doesn't have to
which
be a
is the
book.
great thing.
Because between the
Yeah,
two of
which
us,
is the
like I
great
said,
thing.
I've read some books, you read a lot. But
Yeah.
again, I learn more from observing people, getting mentors, talking to people. But to each his own, we both take the
Yes.
opportunities to learn. Oh, actually, there's one more thing that I noticed back then that I never forgot. I was working at the ad agency, and we were presenting to this. I can't even remember what the company was. It's not a bank. Oh, I'm not allowed to say the company, am I? So it's a very very large construction company. It wasn't no it, ad agency. Yeah, I think it was at the ad agency. But I remember, so very very large construction company. So that maybe limits the numbers. So if you're guessing at home,
Mm-hmm.
and then for some reason we found ourselves in the middle of a meeting. So it's not the meeting that we're supposed to be in, but it was like this really
Mm-hmm.
large meeting. So it's all men, and then the for some reason the office was it was what you'd imagine a bank would look like in the 1980s. Like it was like brown wood, and then you had the green lamps, and then the high back chairs with the padded. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of looked like a really old office, the kind you'd see what 1980s banks would look like. And then everybody was like talking, 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 and then the chairman came, and then the starkest contrast came to me. So all these men were like sharply dressed. They weren't in suits. It was in the Philippines, but they were like,
Mm-hmm.
they were long shirts with ties, and then varying degrees of being smartly dressed. And the chairman came in, and he was in golf shorts and a polo shirt. I guess when you're that rich, you don't really care what you're wearing. It just and oh yeah, Crocs. I remember that bit. And that was a life lesson that I kind of took with me. Like, uh, I like dressing up
If you want to be able to wear polo shirts and a golf
and Crocs.
in a
Yeah,
meeting,
it.
you have to be.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like if you reach the top, that it's your experiences that matter, not what you look like eventually. And one of those things that actually,
At that point,
yeah,
yeah.
that I took from like gleaning that area. If GDPR and data privacy was there, I would have had to sign an NDA walking into that room, but apparently they weren't too. But they had a framed check of their very first payout as a company, and I thought that was very inspiring. and we didn't really have we don't really have that, so I guess never mind. But yes, so allow me to close this out. Sorry, allow me to close, but just you didn't really answer my question when I said, "Do you consider yourself an amazing person?"
Because I'm a learner.
Do you want to say
Is that the
no?
question?
But like in the
I'm
eyes of
always
other
amazing.
people, do people look at you and say, "Oh my God,
I'm
she's..."
always amazing.
Well, yes. I want to say that that's the image that I project, but I know like deep down inside, I'm just a boy. No, I always see myself as like I am literally the same person that I am. I don't know if I'm ever going to change, because some things have changed. You have to admit that, right? Like your taste
Mm-hmm.
in clothes have changed. Like you can't really
Mm-hmm.
abide by subpar quality, but some people project their change differently. The inherent change, not the facetious change. When you
Mm-hmm.
really start appreciating food that is like cooked with good ingredients, as opposed to people who just say like, "Oh no, I don't eat at cheap restaurants anymore because I will eat at a cheap restaurant as long as it's really good food." Just I don't know why I chose that analogy, but do you get what I'm trying to say? No.
Not really.
What I'm trying to
I
say is,
don't know where you're
no,
going.
what I was trying to say is like, do you see yourself as having outwardly changed, like from the Penny of 10 years ago, Penny of 20 years ago?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and and I
Absolutely.
and while I accept
I'm
that,
not the same person.
yeah, and while I accept that, and sometimes you just have to accept that you have changed. When sometimes when old friends tell you that, "Oh, you've changed so much," and I say, "Yes, because life happened." And I can only wish that it changed
I'm
for
not
the
the
better.
same Penny as 5 minutes ago.
Damn. You must have learned
Yeah,
so much
because
from me.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like we're always changing. Maybe, there are values that are going to stay the same because, whether it's values that you've learned and want to stay as one of your core values, but we're always changing.
That is true.
And those values and beliefs still can be changed. But anyway, I think we've gone quite a bit around this topic about continuous learning, and it's different for everyone, right? And the most important thing here is being open to learning, being self-aware that you do need to still learn, and whether you're an avid reader, you're
Keen observer.
you yeah, and you like to go on classes, and yes, you know a lot more, but there is so much to learn
Yes.
out there.
Like a new language. No, I'm kidding. I mean, it's still true. One of the things that I did learn is that, from one of our agents, learning a new language decreases chances of dementia.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna learn a new language. Start dating a Frenchman.
Oh, you've said that before.
Oh no,
And
I did.
yeah, you've said that before. But I
It's
do
the
hope
fastest way
everyone
to learn a new language.
well, it's practice, right?
Yeah.
That you're practicing with someone. But anyway, thank you so much everyone for listening. This is yet another episode of Outsourcing and More, and we do hope you enjoyed it. If you have not, please, sorry, there we go. My Filipino accent is just popping up. But hit that subscribe button. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Buzzsprout, and YouTube. And please don't forget to leave us a rating and review.
Yep. And once again, we do thank you so much for taking the time to listen. We hope, share your comments, like and subscribe. Tell your friends about us. And this has been Outsourcing and More, and you were with Francis.
And my name again is Penny. Thank
Goodbye.
you, and see you on the next
See you in the next
episode.
episode. Bye. Subscribe to our podcast.
We also have a YouTube channel where you can see the faces behind the voices.
You can also find Virtua Solutions on Facebook and LinkedIn.
And if you've got a topic you've been wanting to learn about, let us know by sending us an email at
OAM@virtuasolutionsOS.com. Again, it's OAM at virtuasolutionsOS.com.
See you in the next episode.
Goodbye.
Bye.